When she turned 21, the world didn't change. The sky didn't fall. The ground didn't shake. But something ancient woke up in the forest that night. She never believed in fate, never believed in soul bonds or monsters hiding behind human faces. She believed in logic, in roads that led somewhere, in nights that ended safely, until the crash. Metal twisted, glass shattered, and the forest swallowed the sound of her scream. She lay there, bleeding, certain this was how her story ended. But death didn't come for her. Instead, 3 wolves stepped out of the darkness. Their eyes glowed like moonfire. Their presence felt ancient. 2 of them watched her like predators. The third looked at her like he had finally found something he had been searching for his entire life. She didn't know it yet, but that night, she wasn't rescued by chance. She was claimed by destiny, because one of those wolves was her mate. Chapter 1: The Night of the Crash. The night she turned 21 began like any other. No omens, no warnings written in the stars, no voice whispering that her life was about to split in 2. She left the city later than she planned, the road ahead empty and stretching into darkness. The radio played softly, a song she barely listened to, her thoughts drifting between exhaustion and the quiet relief of being alone. The forest closed in as the highway narrowed. Tall trees lined both sides of the road, their branches knitting together overhead like dark ribs. The moon hung low, pale and distant, offering little light. She checked the time. Just past midnight. Her birthday had officially begun. She smiled to herself, unaware of how much that moment mattered. The rain started without warning. At first it was gentle, a light tapping against the windshield, then heavier, louder. The road shimmered, reflecting the faint glow of her headlights in broken patterns. She slowed down. The curve came too fast. Tires screamed, the world spun. Metal shrieked as the car slid off the road, crashing through undergrowth before slamming into a tree with a force that stole the air from her lungs. Silence followed. Not the peaceful kind. The heavy, ringing silence that comes after something terrible has happened. Her head throbbed, her chest burned, the smell of smoke and wet earth filled the air as she struggled to breathe. She tried to move. Pain answered. Her door was crushed inward, glass glittered across her lap like ice. Blood trickled from her temple, warm against her skin. Her phone lay somewhere out of reach, its screen dark. No signal. No passing cars. Only the forest. She laughed weakly, the sound shaking as fear finally took hold. "Not like this! Please, not like this!" The woods answered her. A sound drifted through the trees. Low, deep, unmistakable. A howl! Her breath caught in her throat. Another answered it, then another. They weren't close, but they were coming. She pressed back against the seat, heart racing as her mind scrambled for explanations. Wolves didn't come this close to the road. They didn't hunt humans. That's what people said. The underbrush rustled. Shadows moved between the trees. She saw them then. 3 shapes stepped into the clearing, illuminated by the weak beam of her headlights. Wolves. Larger than she had ever seen. Their fur was dark, dusted with silver where the moonlight touched them. Their eyes glowed, not with hunger, but with something sharper, smarter. Two of them prowled closer, circling the car, noses lifted as they scented blood. Tears blurred her vision. She squeezed her eyes shut, bracing for pain, but it never came. Instead, the third wolf moved forward. He was bigger than the others, broader. His presence seemed to bend the air around him. He stopped inches from her shattered door and lifted his head, meeting her gaze through the broken glass. Time slowed. His eyes were not cruel. They were not wild. They were focused, as if she was the only thing in the world. A strange warmth spread through her chest, cutting through the fear. Her breathing steadied despite herself.
Chapter 2. Eyes in the Shadows. She didn't remember losing consciousness. One moment, she was staring into the wolf's eyes, caught in a strange, quiet calm. The next, the forest dissolved into darkness. When awareness returned, it came slowly. Cold seeped into her skin. Damp earth pressed against her back. The air smelled of pine, rain, and something wild. Her body ached in places she didn't know how to name. She opened her eyes. The world above her was unfamiliar. She wasn't in her car anymore. The trees loomed overhead, their branches swaying gently as moonlight filtered through the leaves. She tried to sit up and gasped as pain flared through her side. A sound came from nearby, a low rumble. Not threatening, a warning. Her breath hitched as she turned her head. They were there, all three of them. The wolves sat in a loose circle around her, forming a silent barrier between her and the darkness of the forest. Their bodies were still, alert, eyes scanning the shadows beyond the clearing. They weren't guarding prey, they were guarding her. She swallowed hard, fear and confusion tangling in her chest. I won't hurt you," she whispered, though she wasn't sure why she said it. The two smaller wolves flicked their ears but didn't move. The larger one stepped forward, placing himself directly in her line of sight. Up close, he was massive. His fur was thick and dark, streaked with silver that caught the moonlight. A scar cut through one ear, old and pale. His eyes, those same impossible eyes, watched her with unsettling awareness. She should have been terrified. Instead, her pulse slowed. The wolf lowered his head and lay down a short distance away, his body angled toward her, as if daring anything in the forest to try to come closer. She noticed then that her wounds were different. The bleeding had stopped. Her side still hurt, but the pain was dull, manageable. Her head throbbed less than it should have after a crash like that. Confusion replaced fear. "How did I get here?" she murmured. The wolves did not answer. The forest, however, did not remain silent. A branch snapped somewhere beyond the tree line. The two wolves on either side rose instantly, teeth bared, low growls vibrating through the clearing. The larger one remained still, but his body tensed, power coiling beneath his fur. He followed their gaze into the darkness. She didn't see anything, but she felt it. The sensation of being watched. The wolves shifted closer to her, their bodies forming a wall of muscle and fur. One pressed against her side, warm and solid, anchoring her to the ground. A shape moved between the trees. Too fast, too quiet. The largest wolf stood then. He lifted his head and released a single sharp sound, not a howl, but a command. The forest responded. Whatever had been lurking in the shadows retreated, disappearing as quickly as it had come. Silence returned heavier than before. The wolf turned back to her. Their eyes met again. In that moment, something passed between them, an echo of recognition she couldn't explain, a pull, a certainty that this was not the first time their paths had crossed, even though logic told her it was impossible. Her eyelids grew heavy. Exhaustion claimed her at last. As darkness pulled her under, she felt warmth surround her, heard the steady rhythm of breathing nearby. She wasn't alone, and she wasn't afraid. Somewhere in the distance, the wolves began to move, not away, forward, carrying her deeper into the forest, toward a destiny she did not yet understand.
Chapter 3, Saved, Not Claimed. She woke to warmth, not the harsh heat of pain or fever, but something steady and comforting, like sunlight filtered through closed curtains. For a moment she thought she was home, that the forest, the crash, and the wolves had been nothing more than a vivid dream. Then she inhaled. The air smelled of wood, smoke, pine, and earth. Her eyes opened. A ceiling of rough-hewn beams stretched above her. Shadows danced softly along the walls as firelight flickered somewhere nearby. She lay on a narrow bed, wrapped in thick blankets that felt old and well-used. She moved slowly, testing her body. Her head still ached, but the sharp pain was gone. Her side felt tight, bandaged. When she touched it, her fingers brushed clean cloth, neatly tied. Someone had treated her wounds. Panic stirred. She pushed herself upright and winced, scanning the small room. A single window sat opposite the bed, its glass fogged from the cold night outside. A table stood near the hearth, holding a cup of water and a folded jacket she didn't recognize. And the door was closed. She wasn't alone. Before she could call out, a sound came from outside. Footsteps. Measured, unhurried. The door opened. A man stepped inside. He was tall, his shoulders broad beneath a dark coat lined with fur. His hair was dark, slightly damp, as though he'd been outside recently. Firelight caught his face, illuminating sharp lines and a calm expression that didn't quite reach his eyes. When he looked at her, she froze, because she recognized them. His eyes, they were the same impossible color, the same intensity she had seen in the forest. Her heart stuttered. "You're awake," he said. His voice was low, steady, controlled. "Where am I?" she asked, her throat dry. "Somewhere safe," he replied, after a pause. "You were injured. You brought me here?" He nodded once. "You wouldn't have survived the night otherwise." She searched his face for answers he wasn't offering. And my car? Gone." The word settled heavily between them. Silence stretched. She became aware of how close he stood, of the heat radiating from him, of the strange pull she felt, as if something inside her leaned toward him without permission. "Thank you," she said finally, "for helping me." His jaw tightened. "You shouldn't thank me." The words confused her. Why not? He turned away, moving to the fire. "Because what found you in that forest wasn't mercy." Her pulse quickened. Then, what was it? He didn't answer. Instead, he reached for the cup of water and brought it to her, careful not to touch her skin. The lack of contact felt deliberate, controlled. "You're healing faster than you should," he said quietly. "That alone should worry you." She stared at him. "Healing? You had broken ribs, a concussion, internal bleeding." He met her gaze again. "You should still be unconscious." A chill slid down her spine. "I don't understand," she whispered. "I know." He stepped back, increasing the distance between them as if proximity was dangerous. "You'll rest here until morning. Then I'll take you to town." "And the wolves?" she asked, before she could stop herself. Something flickered in his eyes. "What about them?" "They saved me," she said. "I know what I saw." He studied her for a long moment. "They didn't claim you," he said carefully. "That's what matters." "Claim me?" Her voice trembled. "What does that mean?" He turned toward the door. "It means you're still free," he said, "and you should stay that way." The door closed softly behind him. She sat there, heart pounding, surrounded by warmth and questions with no answers. Outside, unseen, 3 wolves watched the cabin in silence. And the largest of them stood apart, torn between duty and a bond that was growing stronger by the hour.
Chapter 4. The Man with Familiar Eyes. Morning came quietly. Pale light slipped through the cabin window, washing the room in soft gray. For a moment, she lay still, listening. The fire had burned low during the night, leaving behind only embers and the faint scent of smoke. She was alone. Her body felt stronger than it should have. When she swung her legs over the side of the bed, there was no dizziness, no sharp pain, only a lingering stiffness that faded as she moved. That should have scared her. Instead, curiosity won. She found her clothes folded neatly on the chair beside the bed, clean and dry. When she dressed, the fabric slid easily over her skin, no catching, no soreness. Outside, the forest was still. Sunlight filtered through tall trees, illuminating a narrow path leading away from the cabin. Fresh tracks marked the ground large, unmistakable paw prints, circling the structure before disappearing into the woods. Wolves? Her breath caught. She stepped onto the porch, the cold air sharp and clean in her lungs. You shouldn't be up yet. His voice came from behind her. She turned. He stood at the edge of the clearing, hands at his sides, watching her carefully. In daylight, he looked even more unreal. Strong, composed, and unmistakably dangerous in a way that had nothing to do with violence. You said you'd take me to town, she said. I will. When? Soon. She folded her arms. You don't talk much. His mouth twitched, almost a smile. Talking causes problems. So does silence. He studied her for a long moment, then gestured toward the woods. Come with me. Walking will help your strength settle. They moved slowly along the path, the forest alive with birdsong and rustling leaves. She noticed how aware he was of everything around them, every sound, every shift of the wind. You live out here alone? She asked. No, but I'm not supposed to meet the others, she guessed. His jaw tightened. No. They reached a break in the trees where the land sloped downward toward a small town nestled in the valley below. Smoke rose from chimneys. Life went on, unaware of the secrets hidden in the forest above. That's where you're taking me? She asked. Yes. She nodded, then hesitated. Will I see you again? He looked away. That depends. On what? On whether you forget what happened. She let out a quiet laugh. I don't think I can. He turned back to her then, his gaze intense. For a moment, the world seemed to narrow to the space between them. Then this will be harder than I hoped, he said. A sudden sound cut through the air. A low call, deep and resonant. Her breath caught. That's a wolf. His shoulders stiffened. You should go inside. Why? Because they're not supposed to be here in daylight. Another call followed, closer this time. She watched as his eyes darkened, something fierce and ancient rising beneath his calm exterior. Go, he said, voice rough. She didn't argue. As she retreated toward the cabin, she glanced back once more. For a split second, she thought she saw something shift beneath his skin, power coiling, restrained by sheer will. And she knew, without understanding how, that the man with the familiar eyes was far more dangerous than he let on. Chapter 5, The Bond Awakens. The dreams began that night. They were not nightmares. They were worse because they felt real. She dreamed of the forest bathed in moonlight, the trees standing tall and silent as silver mist curled around their roots. She moved through it barefoot, unafraid, guided by a pull she could not name. She wasn't alone. Footsteps followed her, heavy, measured, purposeful. When she turned, the wolf stood before her. The largest one, his eyes glowed softly, not with threat, but with recognition. He stepped closer, lowering his head until his forehead brushed her chest. Warmth flooded through her. A bond snapped into place. She woke with a gasp, heart racing, her skin burning where the wolf had touched her. It took her several seconds to remember where she was. The cabin, the man, the forest. Moonlight streamed through the window, brighter than it had any right to be. She pressed a hand to her chest, trying to steady her breathing. The warmth didn't fade. It spread down her arms, along her spine, into her veins. She swung her legs out of bed and stood, drawn toward the door without understanding why. Each step felt guided, inevitable, as if something beyond her conscious mind was leading her. Outside, the night was alive. The moon hung full and brilliant overhead, bathing the clearing in silver light. The forest seemed to hum, alive with unseen energy. And he was there, standing at the edge of the trees. She froze. He turned slowly, as if he had known she would come. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The air between them felt charged, heavy with something unspoken and powerful. You shouldn't be out here, he said quietly. Her voice trembled. Neither should you. He took a step closer. Her pulse jumped. The warmth inside her flared, responding to his proximity like it had been waiting for this moment. Something is happening to me, she whispered. Ever since the forest, ever since you. His jaw tightened. I was afraid of that. What are you afraid of? She asked. He stopped just short of touching her, close enough that she could feel his heat, smell the clean, wild scent of him. You, he said honestly. And what you mean? Her breath caught. Then tell me. He hesitated. For the first time, the control she had seen in him cracked. There are bonds in this world, he said slowly. Old ones. Bonds that don't ask permission. Her heart thundered. And one of them found you. She shook her head. That's impossible. That's what humans always say, he replied. The word humans landed heavily between them. Understanding, stirred, frightening, and intoxicating all at once. You're not human, she said. Silence. The forest seemed to hold its breath. No, he finally answered. I'm not. She should have stepped back. She didn't. Instead, she reached out. The moment her fingers brushed his hand, the bond surged. Power rushed through her, vivid and undeniable. Images flashed behind her, eyes, wolves running under moonlight, ancient rituals, a pack bowing their heads. And him, always him. He inhaled sharply, gripping her wrist not to hurt her, but to anchor himself. Stop, he said hoarsely. If this goes any further... What? She asked softly. What happens? His eyes darkened, glowing faintly in the moonlight. Then I won't be able to let you go. In the distance, a howl rose, answering, claiming, and the bond between them tightened, awakening fully at last.
Chapter 6. When the Wolves Return. The howl echoed through the forest long after it ended. She felt it in her bones, a vibration that lingered beneath her skin. The night seemed to pull closer, shadows thickening between the trees. He released her wrist slowly, as though letting go cost him more than holding on. We need to go inside, he said. Why? She asked, though she already knew the answer wouldn't comfort her. Because that wasn't a warning, it was a summons. Before she could ask more, movement flashed at the edge of the clearing. Two shapes emerged from the darkness. The wolves. They moved with fluid grace, their massive forms silent against the forest floor. Moonlight caught in their fur, outlining muscle and power. Their eyes gleamed with awareness, not feral, but deliberate. They stopped several feet away and bowed their heads. To him. Her breath caught. They listen to you, she whispered. They answer to me, he corrected. There's a difference. The third wolf stepped out last, larger than the others, the same one she had seen at the crash. Her heart skipped. This time, she understood. You were that, she said, voice barely audible. That night. He didn't deny it. I tried to stay away, he said quietly. I tried to let the bond fade. Does it ever? She asked. No. The wolves shifted, alert. A scent carried on the wind, sharp, wrong. The two wolves lifted their heads, hackles rising as low growls rolled through their chests. What is it? She asked. Trouble, and it's close. The forest erupted in sound. Branches snapped, leaves scattered. A figure burst from the trees, human-shaped but moving too fast, eyes glowing with predatory hunger. Another wolf. Not one of theirs. The two wolves lunged instantly, colliding with the intruder in a blur of fur and teeth. The fight was brutal and swift, the clearing filled with snarls and the sound of tearing earth. He stepped in front of her without hesitation. Stay behind me, he ordered. She didn't argue. The third wolf circled wide, cutting off escape routes with strategic precision. Within moments, the intruder retreated, vanishing into the forest with a final snarl of frustration. Silence fell again, but this time it was different. He exhaled slowly. "They know about you now," he said. "Who?" asked she. "The pack," he replied, "and anyone who watches the borders." Fear twisted in her chest. "What does that mean?" "It means you're no longer invisible." The wolves returned to his side, their bodies tense but obedient. One glanced at her, eyes softening briefly, before turning back to the forest. "You can't stay here, and I can't take you back to the world you came from." Her throat tightened. "Then what happens to me?" He met her gaze, something fierce and protective burning there. "Now," he said, "we run." And with the wolves at their backs, the forest closed in as destiny pushed them forward, unstoppable and unforgiving. Chapter 7. Laws Written in Blood. They didn't stop running until dawn. By the time the sky began to lighten, the forest had changed. The trees thinned, the ground rising into rocky slopes carved by age and weather. A cold wind swept through the high ground, carrying the scent of stone and pine. He led them into a narrow ravine hidden behind a curtain of hanging moss. "This place is warded," he said as they stepped inside. "No one can track us here." She leaned against the rock wall, catching her breath. The wolves settled nearby, their bodies forming a natural perimeter without being told. "You said the pack," she began. "You said they know about me now." "Yes." He nodded. "There are laws among my kind," he said, "older than the towns below, older than most human nations." She waited. "Mates are sacred," he continued. "They are rare, powerful, and dangerous." "Dangerous to who?" she asked. "To everyone," he answered, "including the wolves who share the bond." She frowned. "That doesn't make sense." "It does if you understand what mates represent. A true mate bond overrides loyalty, command, even survival instincts." Her chest tightened. "So you'd choose me over your pack?" "Yes." The word came without hesitation. The weight of it stunned her. "And that's forbidden?" she asked quietly. "It is controlled," he corrected. "Alphas are allowed to claim mates only if the bond strengthens the pack. And if it doesn't? Then the mate is removed," he said flatly. She stared at him. "Removed?" "Killed," he clarified. Silence pressed down around them. The wolves did not move. They listened. Her voice shook. "You're an alpha." "Yes." The truth settled into place, explaining the obedience, the authority, the way the others deferred to him without question. "And me?" she asked. "What am I supposed to be in all this?" He hesitated. "You are human," he said. "That alone makes you a problem." Pain flickered through her chest. "But," he added, softer now, "you are also my mate." The bond pulsed between them, warm and undeniable. "There are councils, elders who judge whether a bond is worth the risk, whether the mate survives." Her hands clenched into fists. "So my life depends on their approval?" "Yes." "And what do you want?" she asked. He stepped closer, his voice low. "I want you alive, even if it means tearing my world apart." The wolves stirred, uneasy. "One of the packs already challenged me tonight. That was a test. They wanted to see if I would protect you." And you did? Yes, he said, which means they'll come again. She swallowed hard. Then why are you telling me all this? Because I won't cage you with lies, he thought, but did not say. Because the choice won't be taken from you, not yet. What choice? She asked. To stay and face what comes. Or, he finished, or leave before the bond seals completely. Her breath caught. How much time do I have? He looked toward the sky, where clouds drifted slowly across the morning light. Until the next full moon, he said, which was only days away.
Chapter 8. What the Moon Reveals. The ravine felt smaller as the day wore on. Light filtered down in narrow beams, never fully reaching the ground. Shadows clung to the stone walls, cool and unmoving, while the air carried the quiet weight of waiting. She sat on a fallen log, arms wrapped around herself, staring at nothing. Everything he had told her replayed in fragments. Alpha, mate bond, councils, death. It felt unreal, like a story she had wandered into by mistake. And yet the bond pulsed steadily beneath her skin, warm and insistent, as if reminding her that this was no dream. He stood a short distance away, speaking quietly with the wolves. They responded with low sounds she couldn't understand, but the meaning was clear enough in their body language: warning, concern, urgency. When he finally turned back to her, his expression had hardened. We can't stay here. They'll be watching the passes by now. Then where do we go? She asked. There's an old settlement beyond the ridge, abandoned. It'll give us cover until nightfall. She nodded, then hesitated. And after that? He didn't answer. They traveled in silence, moving through narrow paths where the forest thinned and rock gave way to open sky. The higher they climbed, the stronger the pull inside her became, an ache that deepened with every step. By the time the moon began to rise, her skin prickled with heat. Something was wrong. She stumbled, grabbing a tree to steady herself. He was at her side instantly. What is it? I don't know, she whispered. It feels like pressure, like something is trying to break through. His face went pale. The bond is accelerating. That shouldn't be possible yet. Unless, she asked. Unless the forest did more than protect you that night, he said grimly. The moon crested the horizon. Silver light washed over them. Pain flared suddenly, sharp and breath-stealing. She cried out, collapsing to her knees as images flooded her mind. Wolves kneeling in a circle, blood on stone, voices chanting in a language she had never heard, but somehow understood. She looked up at him through tears. I can see them, your pack, your laws. I can feel what you feel. He dropped to one knee in front of her, gripping her shoulders. This isn't how you were supposed to learn, he said, his voice strained. Then tell me now, all of it. His eyes burned in the moonlight. If the bond completes, you won't be fully human anymore. The words hit her like a blow. What does that mean? She whispered. It means the council will never let you live free, and if they can't control you, they'll destroy you. Tears spilled down her cheeks, not just from fear, but from betrayal. You knew this could happen. Yes. And you let me stay. because leaving you alone would have killed you faster, and because I couldn't walk away." She pulled back from his touch. "I trusted you." "I know." The bond throbbed painfully between them, responding to her hurt as strongly as it did to her desire. "Don't come any closer," she warned. He froze. "I need time," she said, forcing herself to stand. "I need to decide who I am before your world decides for me." The wolves shifted uneasily, sensing the fracture. Above them, the moon climbed higher, and with it, the bond tightened, indifferent to fear, anger, or choice.
Chapter 9. The Alpha's Choice. Night fell hard. The abandoned settlement lay in ruins. Stone walls collapsed inward, roofs long gone, the bones of a place forgotten by time. Wind moved freely through broken doorways, carrying the scent of rain and distant forests. She stood apart from the others, staring at the moon as it climbed higher, its light too bright, too intimate. Every heartbeat echoed with awareness of him, of the wolves, of a world she was no longer certain she belonged to. He watched her from the shadows. As Alpha, he had been trained to read battlefields, to anticipate threats before they emerged. But nothing had prepared him for this, standing at the edge of losing everything he had sworn to protect. The wolves stiffened all at once. He felt it too. Presence. Not one, many. "They're here," he said quietly. She turned. "Your pack?" "Yes." The air shifted as figures stepped into the clearing. Men and women at first glance, but their eyes reflected moonlight too sharply, their movements too precise. Power radiated from them in controlled waves. At their center stood an older man, his posture rigid with authority. "Alpha," the elder said, "you've led us far from our lands." He stepped forward, placing himself instinctively between them and her. "You weren't summoned, you followed." "We followed the bond," the elder said, gaze flicking to her, "and we found what we feared." She felt their attention settle on her like weight. "This is the mate," another voice said. "Human. A risk," someone else murmured. "She's already changing," the elder observed. "You broke protocol." "I protected my territory," he said evenly. "And endangered the pack," the elder countered. "The bond is accelerating. That alone condemns her." Her hands trembled at her sides. "She hasn't chosen this," he said. "Neither did you," the elder replied. "Yet here we are." Silence stretched. The wolves flanking him waited, tense and alert. One wrong word would turn this into bloodshed. "You know the law," the elder said. "Renounce the bond, and she will be spared." The words struck like a blade. She looked at him sharply. "What does that mean?" He didn't answer immediately. "It means," the elder continued, "the Alpha will sever the bond before it seals. You will return to your world. He will remain with us." "And if he refuses?" she asked. The elder's gaze hardened into something cold and final. "Then you are no longer Alpha, and by law, the mate will be judged at the next moonrise." Judged. The word echoed like a death sentence. The wolves bristled, the air crackled with restrained violence. He stepped closer to her, lowering his voice. "Whatever happens next, I won't let them take you." Her eyes filled with tears, not of fear, but of something deeper. Loyalty. Love. Above them, the moon shone brighter, and the pack began to close in.
Chapter 10. The Hunt. The first howl shattered the stillness. It wasn't a call of unity, it was a signal. The pack moved as one, bodies blurring as they shifted, bones cracking, forms stretching, fur ripping through skin in a display of power both terrifying and precise. In seconds, the clearing was no longer filled with people, but wolves. Many wolves. She stumbled back, heart pounding, the sight overwhelming. The sound alone, growls, snarls, the scrape of claws against stone, made her blood sing with fear and something dangerously close to recognition. "Run," he said. She looked at him. "What about you?" "I'll hold them," he replied. "You follow the ravine until it splits. Don't stop." "I'm not leaving you," she said. He cupped her face, his touch grounding, urgent. "You are my priority, always." Before she could answer, the first wolf lunged. He shifted mid-stride, power exploding outward as fur and muscle replaced skin and bone. The alpha wolf, no, the former alpha, hit the ground running, colliding with his challenger in a crash of snarls and teeth. The pack moved forward. "Go!" he roared. She ran. Branches tore at her arms as she fled into the forest, breath burning in her lungs. Behind her, the sounds of battle echoed. Howls of pain, thunder of bodies colliding, the ground shaking beneath their fury. The bond pulled at her relentlessly, tugging her backward with every step. She tripped, hitting the ground hard. A wolf burst from the trees ahead, blocking her path. Its eyes gleamed with cold intent. Not protection, judgment. She scrambled back, heart racing as it advanced. "No," she whispered. "Please." The wolf lunged and was thrown aside by a blur of silver and black. One of the 3 wolves from the crash landed between them, teeth bared. Another appeared at her side, pressing against her leg, urging her forward. They hadn't abandoned her. They never would. She ran again, guided by instinct now as much as fear. The forest opened abruptly into a narrow gorge. She crossed it just as a roar shook the trees behind her. He burst from the undergrowth, blood streaking his fur, eyes blazing with fury and resolve. He skidded to a halt beside her, chest heaving. "You're hurt," she said. "Not enough," he replied. The ground trembled. The pack was close. Too close. "There's nowhere left to run," she said. He turned to her, eyes burning with something fierce and unbreakable. "Then we stop running." He lifted his head and howled, not a plea, but a challenge. The sound carried across the forest, ancient and commanding. The wolves emerged from the shadows, encircling them once more. This time, there would be no retreat. Only truth, only choice, only blood. Chapter 11. The Bond Sealed. The circle closed. Wolves emerged from every shadow, their eyes reflecting moonlight like shards of silver. The air vibrated with restrained violence, a living thing pressing in from all sides. She stood beside him, trembling but unbroken. The bond pulsed between them now, stronger than fear, stronger than reason. It wrapped around her heart, steady and warm, anchoring her where instinct told her to flee. "Stay behind me," he said. She shook her head. "No." He looked at her sharply. "This isn't a request." "I know. It's a habit." His breath caught. The wolves closest to them lowered their heads, uncertain. They felt it too, the shift, the imbalance. Bonds like this did not break quietly. The elder stepped forward, his wolf form massive and scarred by years of command. "You were given a choice,"
the elder growled. You refused. I chose, he answered. There's a difference. The elder's gaze moved to her. Human, step away. The bond can still be severed. She took a breath. Then she stepped closer to him instead. I won't, she said. A ripple moved through the pack. You don't understand what you're becoming, the elder warned. She lifted her chin. I understand enough. The moon flared brighter overhead. Pain lanced through her body, not sharp, but consuming. She cried out, clutching her chest as heat spread through her veins, rewriting something deep within her. He was at her side instantly, supporting her weight. It's happening, he said, voice strained. The bond is sealing. The elder snarled, Stop it! But it was already too late. She gasped as the world shifted. Sounds sharpened, scents layered themselves in clarity. Pine, blood, stone. Him. She could feel his heartbeat like it was her own. And she understood. Not in words, in truth. She wasn't losing herself. She was becoming more. Her eyes met his, glowing faintly in the moonlight. I'm not afraid, she said. He exhaled shakily. Neither am I. The elder lunged. The forest exploded into motion, but before claws could reach them, she lifted her head and released a sound that tore through the night. Not a scream, not a howl, but something between. The pack froze. The sound carried authority. Recognition. The wolves dropped to their knees. Even the elder halted, shock rippling through his massive form. She's accepted, someone whispered. She's bound, another murmured. The elders stared at her, realization dawning. The bond chose her. She stood taller, strength flowing through her like a second heartbeat. Yes, she said calmly, and I choose him. Silence fell. The elder bowed his head. The mate bond is sealed by moon and blood. Relief crashed through her, leaving her weak and breathless. He pulled her into his arms, holding her like she might vanish if he let go. You're safe, he murmured. You're finally safe. She closed her eyes, listening to the forest settle around them. For the first time since the crash, since the bond awakened, the night felt still. But peace, she knew, never came without a price.
Chapter 12. What remains. Dawn came slowly. The night released its hold inch by inch as pale light crept across the forest floor. Fog rolled low between the trees, quieting the echoes of violence that had filled the woods only hours before. The pack was gone, not scattered in defeat, but withdrawn, respectful, watchful. She sat beside him on a rise overlooking the valley, wrapped in his coat. The world below looked unchanged. Smoke rose from distant chimneys. Roads curved gently through fields. Humans moved through their lives, unaware of how close everything had come to breaking. Will they come back? She asked. Yes, he replied honestly, but not like before. She nodded, accepting the truth of it. Some things could never be undone. Her senses were still sharper than they had ever been. She could hear birds stirring miles away, smell the coming rain long before clouds formed, feel him even when he wasn't touching her. The bond rested between them now, not burning, not pulling, but steady, complete. What happens to you now? She asked. He considered the question. I'm no longer alpha, he said. Not by their laws. And by yours? She asked. He looked at her then, really looked at her, and something like peace settled into his expression. By mine, he said, I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. She leaned into him, resting her head against his chest. His heartbeat was strong and even beneath her ear. I don't know what I am anymore, she admitted quietly. He wrapped an arm around her. You're my mate. She smiled faintly. That's not an answer. It's a beginning. They stayed there as the sun rose fully, warming the earth, stitching gold through the leaves. Somewhere in the distance, wolves howled, not in challenge, but in acknowledgement. The forest accepted them. The world would not be simple after this. There would be consequences. Councils would watch, enemies would remember. But she was no longer alone, and neither was he. As the day began, she closed her eyes and let herself breathe, knowing one thing with absolute certainty. That night, when three wolves rescued her, fate did not make a mistake. It chose, and this was only the first chapter of what they would become. End of part 1. Watch out for part 2. Life after the bond, new threats,